First, I wanted to explain that everything I teach and discuss around my business, the Wheelhouse Project, and really everything in my own life is divinely guided. What I mean by that is that not only do I watch for signs and follow them, but I also get really clear downloads of information for myself that I feel guided to share. They usually come in when I'm doing rather mindless and relaxed things like cooking or brushing my teeth. I always run for a notebook to write it all down too, because I've learned that if I don't, I won't be able to recall it later. Needless to say, I have a lot of notebooks around my home and usually a lot of bits and pieces of information all scattered throughout them that I need to pull together to create something for you. But it's up to me to connect the dots and to put it all together. And that's really how I create my blogs and my podcasts, and also how I follow divine guidance in my own life. And usually there's some major aha moments in all of it for me, including what I download or what I receive about the business. And that really brings me to how I got the topic for this podcast today. I had flashes of needing to introduce myself for this one and to start to tell my own story a little bit, but I wasn't sure if that was my idea or if it was divinely guided. So I decided to wait and see. So one night after I posted my second episode, I was doing a bit of yoga on my living room floor. And I said out loud to my guides, okay, so I need to start working on my next podcast episode and also my monthly blog. So I need some content, but no pressure or anything though. And I heard laughter in my head. It was my guides, and that made me laugh too. Then, as I wrapped up my yoga, my attention was drawn to a book on my bookcase right next to me. And it was Conversations with God, Book 3. I had thought to myself that I should probably donate it. I'd been cleaning out books anyway. I took it off the shelf, flipped it open, and noticed highlighting in one sentence on that page. It said, "You teach what you need to learn." And then I realized that that was my next podcast. My story and why I'm teaching you everything I am with my business and how I'm still really on my own path. Welcome to the podcast today. Welcome to the Alchemy of Manifestation podcast. I'm Jen Tammy at the Wheelhouse Project, and we are going to talk about how that sweet heart of yours is going to help you create the life of your dreams. Funny, but my mom really showed me simple manifestation without realizing it. She always used to say, I have good parking karma. And she always got one of the closest parking spaces to the door. She expected it. She only looked in the front row for a space. She'd never looked beyond that. The universe knew her belief and her expectations, and a space was always there for her. Truly. I took on this belief myself when I started to drive too. Always telling people the same thing and always finding a front row space. It's easy. Actually, I can even pick the exact spot if I want, but I have to visualize it well in advance so that it will be clear and ready for me at the right time. And I'm not kidding. I have done this time and time again, and it always works. Mind you, if I get impatient and take another spot, it's likely the person who is in my spot will pull out while I'm walking into the store, which is true. It's happened many times. And it did make me realize, though, that more can be manifested. That, I started to notice more and more how I would think about things and they would happen, or talk about something and it would go exactly as I would say, good or bad. And I realized that we really do create things in our lives. And then when The Secret came out, I think I read it 3 or 4 times at least, and even bought the movie. I was determined to take everything I learned and create the life I wanted. I set out to create big things in my life and used everything they talked about to make it all happen. Affirmations, visualizing gratitude, you name it. But after a while, I got frustrated because nothing seemed to be happening. And for the most part, I really gave up. The vision boards went in the trash, and so did the affirmations. All went out. But what I didn't realize that my guides taught me earlier this year is that you have to heal yourself first. So what do I mean by that? Well, you have a lot of old beliefs, wounds, fears, and more, all stemming from your childhood, from, society, the people around you in your life, that it all needs to be cleared and healed. So you need to heal your heart and change your beliefs about what is possible for you. And that really starts with healing. but also involves developing strong self-love and a strong belief in the divine, or, having faith. It has to all align for you to manifest bigger things in your heart. So I'm getting a little ahead of myself here on the story. So let's go back in time just a little bit to way before The Secret came out. Okay, so actually we'll go way back to my childhood. So that my childhood was really one where I was left feeling rather unlovable and unworthy as really kind of my main themes. I'm air quoting. The environment back then was chaotic, unstable, manipulative, financially shaky. There was always drama. It's not exactly what a sensitive, quiet, introverted child really needed. Going into adulthood, though, I took all this inner turmoil with me, all of those issues with me. And it led me to some very self-sacrificing behavior and some manipulative relationships. Were there good relationships too? Yeah, there were. But where we tend to work out all of our issues from the past and from our childhood and see the realities of all of those past wounds is in the unhealthy karmic relationships. And it took a few of those for me to really see that I needed to make some huge changes and do some major healing. Personally, I took a rather extreme path for myself on my journey, which really started about 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more, deciding that I wasn't going to date anymore, that I decided that I really needed to figure out why I was making such bad choices and really to learn to love myself to the point of not needing someone else to fill me up, because I was always looking for that unconditional love in others and I needed to find it in myself. I also really threw myself deeply at that time into spiritual growth, learning and developing my own beliefs. So over the past 10 years, I have dabbled in all things spiritual, from becoming a Reiki master to getting a master's of intuitive arts and energy sciences, doing psychic readings for people, oracle card readings, Reiki healing sessions, and even animal communication sessions. I had a meetup group for a few years called the Spiritual Explorers that grew to over 100 people and met monthly. There we explored all kinds of spiritual topics, and I even had speakers come in frequently to do meditations, psychic readings, or even discuss hypnotherapy or other healing modalities. It was really fun for me, and I brought in so many different interesting topics that it really became something that I was passionate about. Thoroughly enjoyed all things spiritual. At the same time, though, I was really learning to love myself and enjoy my life. Learning how to fill up my own tank with love and not look to having someone else do that for me. I was finding things I was passionate about, like writing, reading, running, doing yoga, mountain biking, and also, like I said, all the wonderful spiritual stuff that I was doing too. But I was having fun again. I was relaxed, happy, and generally healthy. And I say that because I did realize over time that I still had a slew of ways that I was stuffing down my old pain, because the truth was I was learning all sorts of ways to heal and help others, but I really hadn't addressed the issues that I had. So my ways of dealing with the pain of unworthiness and unlovability were often eating, drinking, not to excess, but I was, the typical have a glass of wine at night to numb the pain a little bit. And shopping. Shopping was a big guilty pleasure. But I think, doing those things and isolating myself as well. I know I put on weight because I was stuffing down the pain. And really, I think I purposely, in many ways, was trying to look as unattractive as I could at the time, because it made me feel safe. Like isolating myself, putting on weight, it made me feel safe. I think my heart was so damaged that I was doing everything I could to protect it and avoid the pain of it. And crazy enough, at the time, my two dogs during that time in my life both died of congestive heart failure. And later, an animal communication told me that they were actually trying to take on all of my pain, all of the pain of, my broken heart, my not having felt loved. But talk about guilt. Seriously, though, I mean, I know it was really bad. And my heart had wounds since childhood, and I just had no idea how to heal them. So I did start to actively seek out healers, especially after hearing that my heartbreak killed my dogs, essentially, which is so sad. But I went to some past life healers, a shaman, some Reiki masters, some intuitives, and other types of energy healers as well. And I knew at the time I was making headway, but it did feel rather slow for a long time. I did start to take better care of myself, though. I stopped drinking alcohol out of the blue one day. It was probably about 5 years or so ago, and I woke up one day and just thought that I hated how it made me feel. And it also, was something that made me feel disconnected from my divine guidance. So, and it does. I mean, it does disconnect you. So, I just felt like it wasn't something I wanted to do anymore, that I didn't want to partake of anymore. And I literally have not had a sip of it since then. I also decided to get off sugar for the most part, and coffee too. And I really started to make some significant changes in my self-care. Then about a year and a half ago, I was instructed by my guides that I needed to do some more intense healing work. I got that information through a reading with my spiritual advisor or psychic, Monica, where she always guides me with a long to-do list, or my guides give her, I should say, a long to-do list for me to do. And on that list was that I needed to do some intense healing work. So that's when I sought out an energy healer / hypnotherapist / counselor, Mary, who I've been working with since. I feel like she has really taken me the last mile, or maybe the last 100 miles. It's been a long journey. I've had weekly sessions with her for about 16 months, which I just ended, but it was super intense. We dug into every nook and cranny of my past, and I climbed into every wound and felt it all over again, which I really believe you have to do. And it was the best and yet the most miserable experience ever. It's not for the faint of heart, for sure, but the healing that you will achieve with such a deep excavation, and I love calling it an excavation because that's what it felt like, but it is amazing. And I just wanted to say that I'm not going to get too far into that right now. I'll talk a little bit more about it, but I also detailed that journey just recently in a blog on my site, thewheelhouseproject.com, titled The Healing Journey. So go ahead and take a look at that if you want to find out more, or even if you want to find out the information from my healer that I worked with. So at the same time that we were doing all this intense healing that was causing anxiety and insomnia and physical pain and GI issues and you name it, it was really fun. I could really see huge changes also happening in my self-love and my faith. Because let me tell you, when you're going through these intense healings, you really need to love yourself hard and take amazing care of yourself to move all of that energy out and through you. You have to have strong faith that God's got you, that there are greater things ahead for you, or you really just don't have anything to hang on to. And a lot of people will fail at all of this healing work or backtrack or give up on it because it's just too much. And I really gripped on tightly to God. My personal sign of love from God through all of it was 33. And let me tell you that most days, I swear I looked at the clock at 33 minutes after the hour, every hour, all day. So it was pretty amazing. And I still get that sign all the time. Actually, I got it right before I started this podcast, but it just made me feel so supported and loved. And it was this beautiful, constant reminder that I was being divinely supported throughout my healing and through all the difficult and challenging things that were coming up in my healing work. I also found that as I healed things and loved myself more, I no longer needed to stuff down the old feelings and pain anymore because it was quickly moving out of my body, my mind, my energy. In the last year, I very easily lost 43 pounds, and I was actually only looking to lose 20 when I first started. But it was so easy that I decided to take off 15 more, and the last 8 just kind of fell off me with no further effort or even intention. I got back to a regular routine of running 3 days a week, which I really do more for the love of it and care of my body than to control my weight. I've really learned that it's more about what you eat in portions, and that's where you lose the weight. But really, I broke some major addictions and crutches that I was using around food. So when I was young, when things would get really crazy at home with my father, my mom would take my brother and I out to eat, usually for something sweet and decadent like a hot fudge sundae or something to fix it, or really to just stuff it down is really the pattern we were taught. So my whole life, sweets were my crutch. While I tried eating sugar-free chocolate and ice cream, in recent years, I was still using it the same way, as comfort. It wasn't until recently that I really wrapped up my healing sessions that I got completely off of it and easily started eating fruit as my snack. And honestly, I don't even get stressed anymore or have the same reactions to things, to be honest. I've really become more calm in general with all this healing. So there's really nothing to stuff down. And, if my reaction at the time is to go for food, I eat an apple or a banana. The old cravings for chocolate and sweets are completely gone. But really, the pain just isn't there. It's just not there. And I'm much happier and calmer overall. So there's nothing coming up for me anymore that even needs to be stuffed down. So the pattern is gone. So let's talk a little bit about the Wheelhouse Project. I'm going to completely divert here. But I wanted to come back and talk a little bit about the business, which came about in the last 4 to 5 years and has really all been divinely guided, right down to the name, which I was told in a reading. So I do a lot of reading. So Ainsley McLeod, past life healer, said the word wheelhouse when we were discussing my future business in several of his readings with me. And he said, I don't think I've ever used that word, so take note of it. And it was Lee Harris, who is an intuitive and channeler, that told me to stop trying to write a book and just to blog for a while to gain some clarity on my purpose and direction in my business. So I started the business around my blog. And then it was my spiritual advisor or psychic, Monica Lawson, who said that I was now moving toward manifesting the life I came here to live, or my happily ever after, and that my healing work had opened my heart to allow me to manifest at the highest level. And I was clearly guided later that this message wasn't just for me, but was at the core of my business and something that I would teach in my business. So this barely scratches the surface on everything I've been divinely guided to do and teach with this business, but I wanted to share that my passions for healing, for learning to love myself, and for all things spiritual have really aligned in my life and now in my business. And I'm just excited to take everything I've learned over the years about manifesting and that I really continue to learn now and teach that to you as well. Because it all aligns. Now, every download I get from my guides shows me what's next and what I'm meant to teach you now. And I've found that every blog I write, every podcast I do, everything that I'm producing for this business is also teaching me. Because as they download the topics to me and some of the content, I fill in the pieces with my own life and I learn. I gain clarity, and I'm consistently shown that I'm on the path to manifesting the life that I desire. So that, in a nutshell, is how I'm here, teaching you the path to manifestation. Because while I haven't manifested everything that I want in my life, I am on the path. I've come a long way, and I can teach you all about that. How to heal yourself, love yourself more, and grow your spirituality and your faith to get you to a higher level of happiness and manifesting your best life. I've already manifested so much in my life, and let me tell you that the further I go down this path, the easier it becomes. While I'm always course correcting myself when old beliefs, old fears, and old worries come up, I've already come so far. I recognize that and see how much I have to teach already. And while I still have plenty of learning moments around it all, I'm really on the part of my journey where the struggle is over and the fun is just beginning, thank goodness. I have opened and healed my heart to allow in more love, more joy, and more abundance. And now I'm mostly working on manifesting these things in my life from a place of deep love of myself, my life, and the divine. So I'm here to teach you what I've learned and to take you along on this next awesome leg of my journey. You can get there too. Your path will look very different from mine and likely a heck of a lot easier, as I think that everything I've gone through was not only teaching me, but it was to teach you, or in other words, it was part of my overall purpose. I will be spending a lot of time on the things that got me to this point so that you can get yourself here too. I will give you lots of ideas, hopefully lots of good ideas for you on where you can begin with healing, loving yourself, and even finding your own spiritual beliefs. You know, it's a really beautiful journey, life, and really what we're all meant to do. To rise up, to overcome the past, and to own our own journey, creating the life that we desire and being led by our heart and by the divine. So thank you for joining me on the podcast today. I'm excited to share our journeys together and to grow together, creating our best and most beautiful lives that we came here to live. Please subscribe to the podcast and check out all of our other resources, videos, blogs, and more at thewheelhouseproject.com. Remember to sign up for our email list while you're there. And also check us out at The Wheelhouse Project on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest.